Good evening. My name is John Kamakana, and this is my senior capstone proposal. And my topic is the future workplace. So, here's a little bit about me. Again, my name is John Kamakana. I'm a transfer student from Leeward Community College, which I graduated from in 2021 with an associate's degree in digital media. I also graduated from James Campbell High School in 2018, and now I am currently studying creative media with a concentration in video game design. So here's my executive summary. Here are the topics I'll be covering in this presentation. First, I'll present my thesis statement, then I'll cover my objective and rationale for the research I conducted. Next, I'll state my plans for my senior capstone project, and then I'll address the significance of my proposed project. So here's my thesis statement. My thesis statement for my research is the future workplace is remote work because it is becoming increasingly more effective and accessible as technology continues to advance. Remote work is also less stressful than traditional workplace, giving workers democracy over their environments. Moving on to my objective and rationale. My initial reason for starting this research was because of my frustration with the lack of video game industry jobs on island. And the thought of uprooting myself from my home was intimidating. So I searched for alternatives in the industry and found remote work. My research focused on the benefits remote work offers to employees and how it's evolved since the pandemic as an accepted option. My objective for the research was to understand where the workforce currently stands with remote work, such as the impact it had on its workers, especially on the productivity, efficiency, work life balance, health, and accessibility. So for my senior capstone plan is to deliver a project by the end of the semester, which will be a playable game demo that incorporates all the key aspects of remote work from my research. This game is meant to give the players a sense of how it feels to do remote work while gamifying the concept. I want to use the research I found about my topic and apply it to my major in a cohesive, engaging way that my audience will resonate with. All right, moving on now to shift over to the significance of my project. The first significance, remote work allows people who don't have job opportunities in their area to still get those jobs remotely. It also allows workers to have a better work-life balance and higher job efficiency. And the future implications of this are the ability to have workplace democracy and the removal of the intimidation factor that comes with making a major life decision, such as moving away from your home for your job. For my second significance, when COVID-19 struck, millions of Americans were laid off from their jobs, with the Bureau of Labor Statistics finding that 15% of Americans were unemployed. And the workforce needed to evolve at an accelerated pace to make up for this loss, putting it on the path to remote work. And the future implications of this include new technologies being developed that allow for further workforce evolution with remote work. This can be found with virtual reality as well. The advances in technology also help with worker accountability. Here's some data I found regarding remote work. In the left pie chart, we can see that in 2023, 40% of the workforce is now working remotely. 12.7% of that remote workforce are working completely online, while the other 28.2% is doing things in a hybrid fashion. This is a large increase from 2019, where the Census Bureau found that only 5.7% of the workforce were working remotely. On the right, we can see a 10-item scale measuring the remote worker productivity and job performance, as well as the work productivity and work engagement between a remote worker who lives with child family members and a remote worker who does not. The data in the topmost graph shows a positive moderate between the relationship of remote worker performance and productivity for those living with family members, while the data in the bottommost graph shows that lower levels of engagement garnered increased productivity from the same group of remote workers. And moving on to our next set of data. This data here finds that employed adults with teleworkable jobs are now more likely to work from home or hybridly than working in the traditional workspace. The data on the left shows the difference in percentage of people working remote, hybrid, and on-site between January 2022 and January 2023 within a specific survey pool. On the right, we see specific aspects of remote work and how it affects remote workers from the same response pool. The data shows that respondents have a better work-life balance while remote working and are able to meet work deadlines. All of the data shown proves the viability of remote work, such as its increasing adaptation to the workforce and the benefits it grants to remote workers. Moving on to my target audience. My target audience for my project are Hawaii residents, college students, and the working class. The age demographics range from 18 years old to 30 years old. These groups are my target residents because research found that college graduates are more likely to consider remote work than other groups, such as only high school graduates. Hawaii residents are also a part of my target audience because I want to show that despite our location being detached from many job opportunities, remote work is still an option to get over that hurdle. And for the working class, I chose them because it directly involves them. And moving on to my proposed solution. My proposed solution for this project is meant to contextualize and highlight what it may be like to work remotely in a realistic, gamified fashion that an audience of players will understand and be interested in. Moving on to my preparation and process. Here's my process for my project. For pre-production, I will create mechanics that fit the game's purpose, and this will be done by incorporating topics and research findings into the mechanics of the game. During the main production, I will create the game and iterate upon the mechanics and systems. Once the game is in a playable state, I'll get playtesters to test the game and then iterate further with their feedback. I will also survey these playtesters to see if they understand the game's theme and purpose. In post-production, I'll refine the game and publish it to a PC gaming platform, such as Steam, Itch.io, or GameJolt. I'll also observe the survey results from playtesters and see if my research and game were successful in delivering the idea. And finally, for my deliverable, here's my deliverable for my project. It'll be a text-based adventure game where players will make choices, manage resources such as stress, productivity, efficiency, and money. These are the base idea and will have further development in the future. They will also develop skills such as communication, speed, and quality. These are also base ideas that will have further development. And finally, complete tasks. Examples of this game idea is I'm drawing inspiration from are the games Oregon Trail and Henry Stickmin. Oregon Trail is very close to the idea that I want to deliver, with many of the decisions and resource management involved in the game, while Henry Stickmin is more in line with the decision making I want players to do, but without the cartoony and grandiose style the game is in. I also chose one specific mechanic from the game Fallout to draw inspiration from, called the special mechanic, and this is mainly found in the skill developing area of my game deliverable. And this concludes my senior capstone project proposal. Thank you for attending and listening. Are there any questions that I may answer?